Okay, now obviously, the whole giveaway of this talk is know your variable types and know how type juggling works. I'd really advise you to always use strict checking, and if at all possible, check for a variable type as well. Is string, is array, because your code will actually be a lot better. And make sure you auto-document your code. Something like if string position is just wrong. Yeah. If string position is not false, that you can use. But show what you're testing for. Be explicit. As I just said, test for type and test for what you want to test. So make your code auto-document. Make it clear what you're trying to do. And use the array wrap around every for each, please. Too many warnings and notices thrown because of that. And the...
Why would you array wrap?
Sorry?
Why would you want to use empty on the counters?
Oh, you could. In this case, well, as long as you test for array first, right. As long as you also test for array, then you can use empty. Yeah, that's the third alternative. Yeah, I didn't want to give 5 alternatives.
Right.
Don't use count on arrays bigger than 10,000 elements.
Don't have arrays with more than 10,000.
Well, then just don't use a for each on it, please.
I got a few examples.
And the reason why I'm saying this, and even though you might think, yeah, but I always have an array for that, a lot of functions return arrays or false. Like pragmatch, or a typical example, you might get your matches or you might get false. If you don't check they actually have an array, you will get into problems with that. The function exists, method exists, extension loaded functions are there for a reason. Use them. Like the string length one, if you know you're using a different encoding and you've got extension loaded MB string, use it. So use those tests to write cross-version code. Use it also, test for which PHP version you're on, if it's a really important thing that something works in a particular way which might have changed over versions.
I would say if you don't do that, at the very least make sure your composer JSON checks for extensions and PHP versions. So whoever is using your code knows what it was written for.
Absolutely, yeah. And with a lot of open source code, you want to be cross-version, so you can't always demand with composer what they need to do. So just make sure you write cross-version code by using the right tests for it.
And read the changelogs.
Absolutely. Read the changelogs, or, I'll come back to that later, keep the or in mind. Unset variables once you've used them. How often have you come across code where you've run through a loop, you've added key value, and then somewhere else later on you use key? And it will work because that key is still set from the for each array loop before. But it will probably not be the result you wanted. So after loops, after temporary values, unset them. It will make for less buggy code. And it will throw notices when you start doing this properly. But that's good, because we can fix those. Last thing, remember that what you get from the database and from forms in post or get are always strings. Unless, of course, you use a wrapper, but then find out what the wrapper does with it. But it's always a string if you get it from a form. Always a string when you get it from a database. So know and test for the values as strings. Okay. And then I have a little exclusive for you. From today onwards. Online today, on its own domain, well, since today it's on its own domain. We have comparisons, arithmetics, testing, any extra tests you want, any more cheat sheets you want, Any more variables you want tested, it's on GitHub as well. You can send in a pull request, and please use this. One of the current version online is on 5.4.13, but there's like about 15 different static versions of every single test sheet with different PHP versions. So if you want to know what it does in 4.38 or 4.39, you can check it. All those tests have been done on 15 different PHP versions, and you can see the static versions as well.
It's easy. You can also use the 3CP4 now, I believe, .org domain, which you can evaluate the PHP code and do a benchmark and version control for a whole range of versions.
Great tip. Send in a pull request and make sure that that one's listed on the more cheat sheets one, please. I don't think it is at the moment.
It's okay, go back to the URL again.
Yeah? phpcheatsheets.com.
Cheat sheets.
So hopefully this will help you. If you're in doubt how to write a test, just go to phpcheatsheets.com and check it out. Check what you're actually wanting to test and what the results would be in various circumstances and how you can best test it. I've used these sheets myself for 8 years, and I only made them publicly available 6 months ago, and since today they have their own domain, so you've got the premiere on that. Lastly, keep in touch. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Okay, let's have pizza.